DIAMCOR owns a diamond mine in South Africa right next door to the third largest diamond mine in the world, which is owned by De Beers. Tiffany Co owns about 6% in DIAMCOR, injected about $10 million into the company, and has right of first refusal on all of its production. DIAMCOR is ramping up that production, and higher revenue, cash flow, and earnings is sure to follow. Here's our chat with the CEO of DIAMCOR, Dean Taylor. Dean, you've got this diamond mine in South Africa, right next door to De Beers. You bought it from De Beers. Describe what you have down there.
Well, it's a rather unique deal, Mark, in the sense that what this is it's a very unique deposit in that you have a direct shift of the top of the pipe of VENETIA, which has just been distributed in a fan deposit right next to VENETIA. So we essentially coexist with De Beers' flagship VENETIA. And what our job really is it's very near surface where you've got this displacement. We essentially mine out the area along known channels of displacement, remove high content of sand, and there's no blasting or underground, and essentially we recover the diamonds that were displaced off of the top of the pipe of VENETIA. So really just a very simple open mine operation recovering very high quality diamonds from a known source. So rather unique.
How important do you think it is that it is at the surface or near the surface? You're right next door to De Beers in terms of credibility for you and credibility for the company.
Well, I think being selected by De Beers to acquire it is the first thing. We do have a strategic alliance with Tiffany's. Tiffany's is a shareholder and a big funder of the company, along with some bigger funds. There's a lot of credibility to it. It's a known source, so you eliminate a lot of the guesswork involved. Security, having the ability to have, we have coexist in terms of the airport, the security, all the different things that go along with this, and of course, operating next to a $4.5 billion mine, it's their land all around us and on it that we exist, and so the requirement for us to operate at a very high level is obviously there too. So it's a very good thing. It definitely adds to credibility.
So Tiffany injected roughly $10 million?
About $10 million that they did in a combination of debt and convertible debenture. They're about somewhere around 5-6% owner in the company, and in exchange for that, what we did is essentially gave them a first right of refusal on any diamonds up to 10.8 carats, which anything above that is referred to as a special. They pay market value and we adjust that as they go, but really VENETIA is synonymous with a very high percentage of gem quality. About 60-65% of what we get is very, very high quality gemstones. And so that's the attraction for Tiffany's. As we go forward in time, a lot of the existing mines are getting older, so for them it's about ensuring that they have not all the supply they need, but anytime they see stones like that, they want to be part of it so that in the future they can get a hold of those.
So Dean, what stage are you at now in terms of capacity utilization at the mine, and give us a sense of how you're looking to ramp production?
Well, it's been a situation where it takes a long time, as everybody knows in mining. It's not an easy thing to build a mine. So from the time we acquire it to getting it built, and that has been about a 7-year exercise, a little longer than we wanted in terms of permitting, mining rights, infrastructure, everything that we put in. At this stage, we're really completely done. We're built out, and we're in what we would refer to as the very last stages, which is large-scale trial mining, where what we do is we run the plant at increasing capacities, and from the information we get from that, we make an initial production announcement, which we expect to make in the very short term. So it's a key inflection point for us right now, where you've got this company with a very attractive share structure, very good partners, very good investors, very good project, all these different things. Not a lot of visibility, not many people know about us because it's a smaller type project. But the reality is it's at that stage now where the plant might run at 20 or 30% of what its total capacity is, and now it's just a matter where it starts to ramp up. So we know it breaks even, we know it's a very low cost operation, and what we expect to see now over this quarter and the next ones coming is slowly an increase to where we want to target profitability and earnings and all these kind of things. And so it's a very exciting time. The value proposition, as we talked about, is from my point of view and in our opinion right now, it's insane in terms of the value proposition today to what it would have been 5 years ago. Even though it was a great idea then, the risk level and the execution now being done is very, very attractive.
So you want to get to 10,000 carats production a month near term, and then 20,000 beyond
yeah,
that?
Yeah, when we look at things, for us it all it comes down to tonnage. We look at everything in terms of, okay, we know what kind of tonnage we can put through. We know the grade is somewhat variable, from areas that we go into. But certainly any project like this that we look at that has the capability to put the kind of tonnage we're talking through. The plant facilities are very large, 500 ton an hour is what we're looking at ultimately capacity. Based on what we see in the inferred grades in that, then yeah, it's realistic to have a target of those numbers in the reasonable short term. And over the longer term, we've always felt like the immediate area, we have a large land position. We've always felt like establishing a 250,000 carat a year operation for a 15-year life of mine was very, very doable. In the short term, the information we had on the deal from the De Beers work would indicate that we can get it built, up and running, into cash flow, production, earnings, those types of things. And then very shortly, in fact, we're doing that now, start expanding outward, and it just keeps growing. So it's kind of unique in that you've got this short-term cash flow, revenue, earnings potential with a built-in element of exploration or growth after the fact. So we think, look, somebody will be mining there for a long, long time. So there's a lot of area to cover.
Can you give us any numbers in terms of revenue projections, cash flow, earnings, let's say into 2018-19?
When we look at it, again, we always look in terms of what is the potential or what are our thoughts in terms of what are the capabilities or targets. Look, I think that based on the grades we see, the tonnage we expect to do in that, we've always felt like, short-term earnings potential, in the 20, 30, 40 cents a share range and moving up from there is definitely something that we can do. The share structure, like I say, is absolutely key to that. We have about 55 million shares, which is extremely unusual for a junior to come into a situation where you've got any type of a mine developed. Usually, one would expect share structures to be more in the 200, 300, 400 million range, which obviously has a dramatic impact on what we're going to see in terms of cash flow and earnings for existing shareholders.
The markets aren't recognizing the story right now. The stock has done well in the past, but it's low right now. So yeah. What is the market not getting? What message do you want to get to?
Well, I think what happens with any of these deals is, especially for us, when you develop this type of a project, you don't, it's lower capex. You develop it. You have to really put the infrastructure in order to, really run at high levels or be able to get to the production scenario or make an initial production decision. So I think that guys get fatigued where, they see us recovering diamonds from the testing and the development of the plant. We've sold off about 90,000 carats. They look at it incorrectly sometimes in the sense that they want to see month over month and quarter over quarter growth, not really fully realizing that what's happening is this massive infrastructure is being put in place. And at some point, the thing turns on, flips the switch, and then it turns into an initial production, and your numbers go up. So I think there's a little bit of that. The sector itself isn't widely followed. Some really good deals like when we look at Stornoway and Mountain Province, and these guys have had some teething issues with the initial startup of those projects, which they'll figure out and their stocks will recover. But in general, everything seems a little beat up, but it's that time of year, and I think our timing is perfect. So I think right now it presents a tremendous value for guys to look at, and I think we're going to, once we move forward from here, we'll recover to the highs we had before, and I believe we'll move well past those.
And lastly, you're planning a dividend at some point?
I love the idea of dividend. Most of our shareholders, when we look at it, the mistake a lot of guys will make is as soon as if they're lucky enough to get to a point where they generate some significant cash flow, it tends to be, let's go and buy another deal, or let's do this or that, which is fine if it can add to your overall company and it makes logical sense. In this particular case, I think it generates enough and has enough potential to generate cash flow. We've demonstrated that we can be profitable on a very, very low number of carats already. And so really I think most of our guys, from the perspective that we see it, the big shareholders would love to see a base dividend. We're going to get some big stones. Those essentially, you can get a $4 or $5 million stone for us is very realistic. The potential is there all the time. We're running that bigger material now. Those translate into as much as 10 cents a share, or roughly 10 cents a share in earnings with zero cost. So it definitely has that element to it, and that's what we like to see. We think that'll keep shareholders in, that'll give them good return, and it'll bring new shareholders in. So yeah, that's our focus.